Hey everyone, welcome to the Terrible Video Gamers Game Club. We're making a book club for video games. Each week we choose a new game randomly from a pre-chosen list. This session we were playing Risk of Rain, a choice from Tyler Schatz. I'm joined by Tyler.
Hi.
And Alex Purdy.
Hello.
And I'm Josh Cox. So, Risk of Rain. Tyler, tell us a little bit about it.
All right. Reading here from one of the articles on the website. It's a 2D sci-fi action-adventure platformer developed by a company called Hopoo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Hopoo.
Sure.
Released way back for the PC on November 8th, 2013. I originally found it was originally kind of funded by Kickstarter. Basically, it was two college kids, and then they eventually brought on like a composer for the music stuff later on. But two college kids making it back in the day. I also kind of have to throw in there's a little bit of what they call a roguelite element to the game, which is basically the game is basically it's focused around repeatedly playing the game over and over because of permadeath, and it procedurally generates the environments that you play on. And one of the big things to the game here is the difficulty. The way it ramps up is basically after so much time, the game keeps getting harder and harder for you. So the longer you spend playing it up until a certain point, the game gets harder and harder.
I'm going to throw in there, I think we should call this developer Hopoo.
Sure. Well, I actually watched a speed run. I watched the developers watch a speed run of Risk of Rain 2. And I heard them say it, and now I cannot recall what they actually said. But I'm pretty sure it was the Hopoo, but I could not tell. So, yeah.
I'm sure it is, but I'm just very immature.
So starting off just kind of a little bit here, how much more did you guys play? I know we had two different sessions there, kind of, I think, between both of us. Like I did one with JC one night when we were figuring out the multiplayer issue, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And one with Purd, where we tried to get JC in, but couldn't at the time, I think. And then we did one with all three of us playing together.
Yeah.
So how much kind of more time did you guys kind of put into this game outside of that?
Honestly, with
None.
Fair enough for Purd, I guess. Yeah, I did a little bit, probably an hour and a half. Not a whole lot, honestly. It was a busy time anyway, and also a major release happened in another game that I was playing, so I just got yanked away to that. So tried to make what time I could, but it was probably a little bit of a foreshadowing thing. It didn't pull me in and make me want to keep playing too much more. It was good while it lasted. It was good. It wasn't exciting in a visceral way that brought me in more. So
Yeah, I would have to say here, basically, like, I understand if this game doesn't pull you in kind of within the first few runs of you kind of doing it, it's probably not. I have kind of a biased opinion for the game because I'm at 138 hours of playtime for this game. It's my second most played game on Steam right now, right behind a idle game called Time Clickers. So I kind of expect to pass it to it probably at some point in time before the year's over, but for me, it's basically always just been a game I like to sit down and kind of play when I want to, like, listen to a podcast or something like that. I'll just sit there, turn the music off in the game, start playing the game, and just kind of go while listening to the podcast. Purd, was it just kind of that for you? It just did not draw you in really like a game would?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike my time playing. It's nothing I would play by myself, I feel like. I enjoyed playing with you that one night, and obviously with both of you a couple nights ago. But I thought I enjoyed the mindless aspect of it, of just jump and shoot and kind of, run around and try to get power-ups and repeat and rinse and repeat. But it got a little too, I think, repetitive that I would play it alone. But, I mean, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. Like, it's a game that if one night down the road you said, hey, you want to play some Risk of Rain, and there's nothing else going on, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, let's play a couple rounds. But I don't know. I'm in this weird area with it where I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it at all. So,
It's definitely just not a game that you would sit down for long stretches of time and play if you're not a crazy person like I am. I've sat down multiple nights for 3 to 4 hours, and then the time has just disappeared from me.
Freak.
Yeah. So kind of just touching just a little bit on the game. So it's a 2D game. So what did you guys think of just kind of the art style of the game? Like how'd you guys think it looked kind of compared to some of the other games you've played like this?
I don't mind the art style. One of the things I did notice about the graphics is I wish there's different levels of zoom you can do. I kind of wish there was a 1.5x zoom. The 2x zoom felt a little too close, and the 1x zoom you couldn't see anything, and it felt overly busy at times, especially once you get into multiplayer. And it's like punch in your name, and so we show up into the game, and then there's our name plastered under our character in these big letters that are taking up valuable screen real estate, and like. There were many times, like especially as we're trying to wait out and take out a boss and clear out the rest of the enemies in a mission or something like that, that we're just basically standing all in a line, just shooting at stuff that's coming at us, and I have no idea what I'm actually doing. I know I'm somewhere in there holding my attack button. Couldn't tell you what is actually happening. No idea. So it definitely got busy with that. I mean, it looked cool. Having played the second one, I really like the things they do to evolve with that. So I like the aesthetic they're going for. Maybe not the execution so much, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I really love the nostalgia aspect of it. I felt like I was back as a little kid playing, on my Nintendo 64 or something. But especially once you got later on, you had some power-ups and explosions. You have no idea where you are, like JC said. Like, I'm in here. I know I'm shooting things. I know I'm still alive because I have my health bar. But other than that, who knows what's happening?
Yeah, like early on, I again will always preference a lot of my comments here. Like I've spent too much time in this game. I know just like a lot of the little minor details about this game. So like I could always kind of figure out, okay, I'm shooting this way, I'm shooting that way. I could kind of understand that like early on it would be just a little bit of a challenge for everybody right away to go, okay, am I shooting the right direction or not here?
And there were some attacks even where like as the soldier, the main initial starting character, that I would choose them and then I'd hit the little fast shoot button, and for whatever reason, I could never tell exactly what it was that set it off. Maybe it's just like not holding a specific direction for long enough before you hit the button, but then he would like alternate his shots left and right every time instead of just shooting left or just shooting right.
So yeah, I know the reason behind that is because the guy, he will shoot on both sides of him if there are enemies present in a close enough range on both sides of him.
It's just purely if there are enemies present. Like it's not because I was thinking that like it was something that I wasn't controlling it correctly or something. So yeah, I mean, yeah, good to know now, I guess.
Yep.
Because I'm of the consideration with whenever there's multiple enemies, like I will destroy that one person, even if I'm just getting walloped in the back, because then there's only one other person to worry about as soon as he's dead. So, yeah.
Yep. So you were playing with the original character there. So to touch a little bit on the game too, there's like about I think 10 characters total in the game. You unlock every character besides I think the starting guy, which you were I think he's the commando is his name. But you unlock every character doing certain things throughout the game, whether it be completing a run one time or beating it on a certain difficulty or having so many items equipped at the end of the game or something like that. You'll unlock all of these characters and they all have different power-ups and stuff like that associated with them. Which makes the game just a little bit more challenging depending on which character you use.
Would you say, do you have all the characters at this point?
Yep, this is game 2 that I have fully completed, so it's basically on Steam. I think I'm like still technically missing some in-game achievements, but they're with characters I don't like using at all, so I'm not in any particular hurry to go get them.
Fair enough.
I thought about like a couple of times, maybe I'll just go find like a 100% complete save file or whatever and put that into my game and just kind of see what else I might be missing.
Fair enough. So you mentioned that like you can choose these other characters and make it a little harder. It's like, would you say that all of the other characters make it harder in some way, or is it trade-offs? Some pros, some cons.
There are some characters I find it to be easier to play with than others. There are some characters that are more melee focused, so their attacks are all close range. So if you're kind of new-ish to the game, you have to kind of keep a little bit more monitoring on your health, or they like have some attacks that help regenerate your health. So you have to be mindful of when to deploy every attack to kind of go, okay, I need to crowd control over here and then run this way to kind of regenerate my health.
Fair enough.
So then kind of another thing I wrote down to talk about too is just kind of the music and sound. So again, I let off where basically I turned the sound off a lot of times to play this game to listen to a podcast. But I have spent enough time to listen to music on each level, and I think it's quite enjoyable for a game of this kind of size and scope to have the music it does. I think it's all pretty good for the most part. Do you guys have anything comment about the music, sound quality, anything? That
You know me, I'm an audiophile. I was analyzing everything. No, I mean, I guess I don't really, to be honest, I don't remember what the music sounded like. I know I remember turning it down insanely at the beginning of launching the game because my ears were bleeding from the audio. But once I found the sweet spot, I mean, it can't have been that bad because otherwise I would have turned it off and put on Spotify. So I'll give it an endorsement, even though I don't remember what it was.
As those things, I think it fits the game as you're playing it. Though I will say the game as you're playing it also ends up throwing, within 5 minutes, there's so much stuff on screen that you're not hearing the music for the most part until you just go to clean up the last couple of enemies, and it's like, oh, there's music here, right? Listening to it outside of the game, I don't think it really holds up as just like standalone music by any stretch. Like I say, it fits good for what it is, but I think whenever I first was playing it, the brief hour or so that I originally played it before this, I think I also did the same thing where I just turned the music down and just put something else on. Yeah, I don't think you miss a whole lot of the experience by doing that.
Yeah, agreed. And then just kind of to go back to the gameplay here, then kind of the final thing I wrote down to talk about before we get into some other points that I have written here. So again, the gameplay is just not, it's designed basically to kind of push you to keep going and going. There's definitely challenges to every level and everything like that. And if you don't quite understand the game, it might become just a kind of struggle for you to kind of fully grasp. This game is not meant to be nice. You're not meant to keep your power-ups basically from every run that you play. So kind of how did you guys feel like the game overall just kind of played when you were experiencing it?
I remember getting very overwhelmed at times to the point where I was like, this game sucks because I can't get out of this situation, which, like you said, is kind of part of it, but I don't know. I felt like there was some times where I had no way out, and no matter how many times I spammed right trigger, there was just no way I was getting out alive unless some miracle happened, and I wasn't good enough to generate a miracle. So,
because I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look at the FAQ for the Kickstarter and all that stuff, kind of see what they said about it. But like, to me, this game, it feels like they were trying to make like a 2D Dark Souls style game, but more just like faster paced and cutthroat, that sort of thing. So I don't know if that was actually any sort of like inspiration for them or not, but every other 2D Dark Souls game that I've played, it just doesn't work in 2D to me. Like you need that sort of third dimension to kind of, take your time and space out an enemy. Like anytime there's a jellyfish coming, like there's these sky jellyfish in the game and they always come from above you and they come sliding down, and like with the starting character you just can't do anything until they're on your level, and then they zoom through you and they're hurting you anytime they're close to you. So then you have to, like, you just feel like you're stuck. Like there's a lot of those sort of gameplay moments where it's like, I feel like I can't do anything but just trade blows with this guy. Like I'm not able to, the game is not giving me the tools to combat this in a way that I can survive better. Maybe I'm just like not playing it good enough, I guess, but I just never felt like there was enough moments there there wasn't a learning experience towards that. Whereas Dark Souls, like you feel like that for a time and then you realize, oh, I could be doing this. Oh, I could be doing that. Risk of Rain, you have 3 to 4 tools at your disposal and that's about it. So yeah. I'd say that detracts from it. And again, to hark on the second game, that's the second game being in a third dimension, you get that back again. You get that extra sense of freedom and movement.
Okay. Yeah, I have yet to experience the second game. It is on my list of at some point in time try out. I just haven't gotten there quite yet. But I think the gameplay if you play long enough and kind of get some of the power ups and stuff like that too in like one of your runs, the gameplay definitely kind of shifts at some point in time where you at some point in time become just kind of confident in your ability to just kind of stand there and trade blows back and forth with like an enemy. You can just sit there, hold your ground, keep shooting at this guy, and then he'll eventually die, and you can move on to the next couple of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like a balance there. Like I have a particular style of playing the game where basically like I start off every run right away, basically just trying to find the teleporter, then killing it was kind of keeping a mental note of how much coin I need to unlock all the chests that I found, and then just kind of hit the teleporter and go. Whereas then it kind of evolves after a while of like, okay, I've got this power up, I could start focusing a little bit more maybe on killing enemies to kind of boost my health, or maybe I don't have to be as concerned to always run and find the teleporter. I can just kind of take my time. So it slowly evolves, I think, throughout the course of the game there to bring it like to shift the balance basically more towards the player side of like you are now kind of in control of what you want to do throughout the game.
Yeah, I can see that. And I definitely noticed that, like, you know, by the time you get 10 power ups, then it's like you're starting to feel pretty strong and all that stuff. It's just a different design philosophy that it has its moments. Like once you get to that point, it feels good, but then like to me, then it just also by that corollary, it doesn't feel that good until you get a few power ups. So
yeah,
just a bummer for that part.
And to kind of emphasize too, I shared that picture with you guys in the channel a while ago here. We might have to post it in the video clip when we put this up. I basically decided just to see what it would be like if I played the game on easy now, and just kind of spent a bunch of time replaying the game, like rerunning some of the levels over and over. And I spent, let's see, 176 minutes is what, close to 3 hours.
God. Yeah, I didn't even notice the time stamp on that.
I just noticed that too there, but spent like 3 hours basically doing one run of the game here. And you could just see the amount of enemies and amount of items and stuff I stacked up over that time. But that basically the end of that game, I was pretty much darn near invincible here.
Yeah. Man. I'll do it.
So kind of wrap back around, just kind of, we've talked about some of these bugs that had come up here before. Just I figured we could wrap back around and just kind of talk about them a little bit. So obviously here there was the music issue. Like I never noticed that, I guess, for the longest time until I actually put headphones on to start playing, and then it's like, oh god, this is loud.
Yeah. Yeah, so like so the audio sliders in the game are just like 10% increments from 0 to 100, but we put it down to 10%, and that still was just like blaringly loud. Can't hear people on Discord because the music is too loud, sort of thing. Yeah, I had to then go like with it at 10%. I then opened up the Windows sound mixer and brought that down to like a third. It was crazy loud.
Yeah, so like definitely too. It's an indie game, like I mentioned, kind of made by 2.5 people here, pretty much there. So it's definitely got some issues here too. Like definitely the music's loud. I don't like the fact that you have to click on it to go all the way up to 100 just to get back to 0.
Yeah. Yeah, the controller support is just basically like you plug in a controller and then that lets you move the mouse around and interact with things there instead of just like working through the menu like you would think you could. So it's just, I wouldn't even call them necessarily bugs. They're just like really clunky design choices that, I mean, granted, they like, we were given Deliver Us the Moon some flack because they got like, what, 100,000 or something like that for their Kickstarter. And Risk of Rain here is that they passed theirs with 30,000. So like that is, for 2 people, that is not a lot of money to put out this game. So I mean, they're definitely like, they were down to the wire, I'm sure. Like it was a matter of like, well, do we actually release this game and maybe eat next week, or do we make a better multiplayer connection experience? So
yes,
because
so touching on the, we got to touch on that one. The multiplayer thing is just it's strange. Like, I guess I don't come from a world of playing a lot of old PC games with other people, other than my oldest game I probably played with other people was the original StarCraft. And Blizzard had that thing all designed out to just connect to BattleNet and then go.
Yep.
This one involves sitting down and reading a guide to learn how to port forward from your router so that other people could connect into you.
Yeah, yeah. You have to manually set your port up, and it doesn't do any sort of universal plug and play sort of situation with your router. It wants to have a port and your IP, and you set up your name and you make a lobby. Hopefully you have your ports forwarded correctly, because otherwise people will try and join you. And then if you try to join someone and you can't, it doesn't error out and then put you back to the main menu. It just never connects, and then you have to force quit the game. So it's just a very strange setup. But once you finally get it all set up, it does work most of the time.
What year was this game actually released on Steam?
2013.
I wonder why they haven't updated. I mean, because you make a good point with the Kickstarter. I can see how they'd have bigger things, but it's been 9 years almost.
Well, the fun thing too is they were released recently here on the Xbox One, I believe it was. Yeah, the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and the Nintendo Switch. So let's see, PlayStation 4 was 2016, Nintendo Switch was 2018, and the Xbox One was 2019. And I'm going to take a guess. I've always thought about checking those out on the Xbox there, but I was just like, I own this game on PC. I don't really want to rebuy it again.
All right.
But I was like, I'm sure they've got the multiplayer stuff figured out there, because they're probably using the servers for those companies.
You'd think, yeah.
But then, it's like, I wonder why they don't. I don't even know. Does Steam offer?
Yeah, there's like Steamworks and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can use to.
I mean, surprised they haven't gone back, but then again, I'm sure that costs money to do, and they're probably more full ahead with Risk of Rain 2 now, the more current game.
Yeah, because they have, from what I read, they put out a very big anniversary update to celebrate the release of Risk of Rain 2 again. So, I mean, they're definitely still working on that, and that thing, it connects well, and controllers work like you expect, and I don't recall having my headphones blown out whenever I started that game. So, I mean, there's something to be said for taking ideas and just rolling them into the new game, but it's very strange, like you said, that they are then still re-releasing Risk of Rain, presumably with some updates. I guess I'd be curious to check it out a little bit and see, like, is the volume super crazy on an Xbox One? Does the controller work like a controller on there? Like, how much did they do, I wonder? Maybe they just sent it to a port house too. I mean, that could be an option too. Maybe those two aren't actually doing the work on it. Interesting.
Yeah, later ported with assistance by Code Mystics.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just reading from the Giant Bomb wiki on this thing here.
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like it would be then somebody else doing the port job as opposed to the two folks there. So cool.
This is definitely a bug, though. I would probably imagine is when you Alt Tab out of the game, like it disappears from your taskbar there, and you have to like Alt Tab back into it to actually get back into it. But then I've noticed too, if you do that enough times, it'll actually start showing up in your taskbar at the bottom.
Yeah, it's a mystical game. Yeah.
Yeah. You're playing this game, but you're not actually playing this game.
Right. It's a very not safe for work mode where like you just Alt Tab and like poof, it's gone.
Seriously,
no game on my desktop.
The first time I Alt Tabbed, and then I was like, "Oh, my game's gone." You guys are like, "It's there." You gotta Alt Tab back. It's so funny.
Well, one other bug for sure, probably worth mentioning, was the first time that Purd and I and you did play together. Whenever Purdy hopped in for like one level essentially, and then we were just continuing to play, and on my screen, it thought that Purdy was still here with us. And so on Shotzi's, it showed that he left. But we also had item sharing on. And so because, there was a third person there who had very few items, my game refused to let me pick up more items. And meanwhile, Shotzi is just able to grab like whatever he needs. He's just stacking up. He's got like 7 items. I'm at 3. And as we mentioned, you need those power-ups to get to the point where you can start trading blows with these stronger enemies. So I just eventually got to the point where I would just like would spawn, die within 30 seconds, and then just like wait to watch Shotzi roll on to the next level. It's just, that was a rough situation. I did not want to play Risk of Rain again for a little bit after that.
Yes. That's definitely, if you want to make the game more challenging with your friends, turn on item sharing here. Too. There's a sparse amount of things to do really with the multiplayer lobbies, air quotes, that you host there.
Yeah, there's one option: item sharing on or off.
Yep.
That's
And then
it.
you have the ability to change the difficulty and add some modifiers too
Yep.
if you have them unlocked, but still it's like 3 things you can change and then choose your character. I will take this time too. Speaking of difficulty, I have to specifically call out this boss called the overloading magma worm. I specifically wrote down
Oh God.
that boss.
Yeah, that one sucked.
So to explain here, there are elemental modifiers that get added to enemies kind of as the difficulty kind of increases. So there's the yellow enemies will spawn as yellow, which means they run faster and can teleport a little bit. Orange means they'll shoot out missiles at you sometimes, or they cause explosive damage. Red is basically they leave fire trails basically everywhere, which will damage you when you run over them. There's green, which I can't ever tell if the green ones heal surrounding enemies close to them or just kind of regenerate on their own. And then there's the worst one of them all, blue, which causes electrical damage kind of in their vicinity. So the overloading magma worm becomes extremely more difficult because the standard magma worm spawns out of the ground, basically jumps up over you, and then comes back down. So he has 2 opportunities to damage you there, basically when he's coming up and when he's going back down. The magma worm, the overloading one, is the blue variant of him, meaning he has the electrical damage with him, and he causes twice as much damage basically to you, if not more, because he'll come up, electrocute you, and hurt you as he comes up. And then if you're anywhere close to him to try and cause damage to him, he will hurt you with the electrical charge, and then he'll come back down and hurt you with the electrical charge. There's been so many times I've played like on a higher difficulty where I get him spawned as the first boss when you don't have any power-ups really to kind of do too much damage and just die right away. So basically my run ends in the first 10-15 minutes of the game.
I was thinking of the regular magma worms. I don't think I ever saw one of those, so I can only imagine.
Regular magma worms are kind of a little bit of a challenge just because it takes a little bit to try and keep killing them. When you get the overloading one, you might as well just quit the game pretty much if you're in like the first run, because
Time for a new one.
yeah, like I said, there's been so many times where I've played like on a harder difficulty, got him to spawn as the first boss, and been like, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
At least it's the first boss and not like the, second to last level. Where you get all the tougher regular monsters as well.
Yeah, I guess there weren't any necessarily bosses that stood out to me as being like especially terrible that I came across. Not that I came across the overloading magma worm as far as I know. I mean, it just got to the point where like some of those levels, whenever it reaches those higher difficulties, and I feel like I'm not equipped with the tools to necessarily dodge all the hundreds of attacks that are coming at me, which a little bit to the point, but just not to harp on it too much. But in the second game, with 3 dimensions, I recall like, oh yes, I've encountered these enemies before, and I know that I can do this or these other moves here to get away from them. But in 2-dimensional space, I can't. I'm just there, stuck.
Yep. I will say too, like the difficulties seem to increase because we had the 3 of us on in one time. So like there definitely seemed to be more enemies spawning, even though sometimes like 2 of us would be dead. There's still 1 alive, and it's still spawning enemies for 3 people basically.
Yeah.
And I will say too, I still have a vague memory of like I think they must have done some updating to this between when I first started playing and when we picked it up here again recently, because like even me, I was noticing like some of the early goings were still just getting quite hard, it seemed like right away, because they'd start spawning in some of the elemental enemies, which I was like, I didn't think these came until like after a little bit more time had passed, but maybe I'm wrong. And then I don't know. Sorry, do you have something else here?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, I've only got an hour and a half or something in it before this round, so I remember just getting walloped in the first stage a few times at that point, not knowing like to find teleporters and all that, and to hurry at doing it too. So I'm sure that I just got destroyed then, and I couldn't have told you any different now. So.
Okay.
Yeah, if I didn't play with Tyler, I don't think I would have played it very long. Because they don't really explain anything, do they?
No.
There's like no tutorial, no like here's how it works type of thing, really, is there?
I think if you let it roll, then it will give you like a basic story in the. Well, isn't there like a little sort of demo reel cinematic? Maybe that's all I'm thinking of. Is just
I don't think there's an actual tutorial that really tells you.
No, definitely not. No. As you unlock things, there's like an encyclopedia, and it'll give you a little information about that. But you have to pretty much find something first. And anytime you use something, it will then pop up. Like you just pretty much have to, pilgrim that thing and just like, oh, what's this? Eat it, find out. And then it'll tell you at that point, like, oh, this was good, this was really good, or go from there.
Yeah, I really wish the power-ups would have told you what they did
before taking them,
right? Yeah, because especially when it seems like in every level there's the 3 pillars or whatever, where there's you can buy this for this price, this for this price, whatever. It's like I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I would always choose the question mark one, just because forget it. I don't know what I'm getting anyway. Might as well go for the one that I really don't know.
And it seems like they're all decently good. I mean, I'm sure for their own reasons, but some are much better than others, and I just would have no idea, except for the rocket launcher one. Like, that one's pretty decent just from the image. But, there's one that even when I was playing with you two in our last little session, Tyler, you didn't even know what it was doing, but it seemed like when I hit people, I was getting health back or something.
Oh,
but I didn't remember what it looked like either, so...
There's a couple of those health return ones that I can't keep straight in my head sometimes, too, about what... Does it give you health for doing critical damage, or does it give you health for killing the enemy, or do you just get health for doing damage? There's definitely a plethora of power-ups, and I'm kind of wondering if that's just kind of the design of the game, not telling you anything, but the power-ups thing of this is kind of the thing of these types of games where you have to play them just a little bit more to kind of fully understand what each power-up is. I know you mentioned, I think, Binding of Isaiah. It's Isaac. Not Isaiah.
Yeah.
Binding of Isaac. Is that... I've never played that game. I've only ever kind of casually seen that game played. Is that what that game kind of is, too, of just, you have to pick up the different power-ups to kind of get an understanding of what they are?
Did I mention Binding of Isaac? Because I don't think I've played it either.
Oh, I thought you did. My bad.
No.
That wasn't me.
No,
Never even heard of that game.
Well,
as far as I understand, I mean, it's more like a bullet hell roguelike, but I mean, in terms of, I know enough about it to talk about the very basics of it, but I don't know how critical the power-ups are there, but,
Okay.
I mean, I feel like you could find a lot of those sort of roguelike games, like Rogue Legacy, Binding of Isaac, Spelunky, that sort of thing, where you can find probably no item runs where people take no items and finish it through the end. I don't know. Risk of Rain seems like one of the harder ones where you would be a no item run by comparison. I just feel like you don't have nearly enough tools at your disposal. I mean, compared to the stuff that you end up getting after. So, I don't know.
Okay. So I guess I'll steal this from Purd's leading sessions there, just kind of moving into the final segment here of just kind of overall thoughts of the game, unless you guys had anything else to kind of touch on there. Kind of overall thoughts of the game, and maybe we'll assign a 5-star rating to them, see what you guys want.
We're lowering it to 5-star rating?
10 stars, too bad.
What?
Yeah, forget it.
You agree, JC? 10 stars is too much?
Oh, yeah. Why bother?
But 5, I mean, it's either a...
Well, 5 is not always perfect, though. So, what differentiates between a 6 and a 7 for you? I liked it slightly more than average, but not quite above average. I mean,
but at least if there's a game you really enjoy, but there's certain aspects you don't like, you can say 8 or 9. With out of 5, you're stuck with 4, but you might not really want to give it a
4-star game. That's great.
Too low.
Yeah,
it's above average.
Yeah. Or a 5-star game can still have faults with it. But
so is 3 average? Because it's technically over, 2.5, because that would be halfway.
3 is your average game, 4 is above average, and 5 is just exceptional.
Because the 10 scale is kind of how us as Americans also grade schoolwork. It's a 10 out of 10 would be an A, 9 out of 10 would be a B. So on, and then anything below 60% is you're pretty bad.
Yeah,
all the way down
but
to
that
0.
also sucks too, because why not use the whole scale? Why is 60? That's the worst.
All right, so out of 5 stars, I'm giving it a solid C.
C out of 5. All right.
Despite all of you.
All right, Jeff Bakalar.
No, in all seriousness, I guess 3, which to me would translate to 7-ish out of 10.
So it was an average game for you, Purdue. Like you enjoyed it, but it's not like something.
Yeah. Like I said before, I will gladly.
out to
If you guys said, hey, we want to play another couple of rounds of Risk of Rain this week, I'd be like, count me in. But I would probably not be bringing it up myself.
Could I ask them kind of like why? Is it just that the gameplay loop just didn't really appeal to you? Is that kind of just the general consensus there?
Yeah, it's hard. Honestly, it's hard for me to put a finger on it. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but I didn't dislike it. I can't stress that enough. Like I didn't hate my experience. I generally enjoyed just zoning out, and my index finger got such a workout. It was insane. But but I mean, yeah, it's just like it's not something that I went to bed that night thinking I cannot wait to play this again.
Okay, Josh.
Well, and yeah, to put a number on it, probably in that 3 range as well, honestly. It's a strong first showing, and it just what would elevate it to me is make it 3-dimensional, streamline the user interface a bit, make some better music. Risk of Rain 2, y'all should check it out.
I feel like I've heard him say this.
I'm just telling you, it's not to toot that horn too much, but it's a better game in every way, I think. And I granted I started with stuff like Dark Souls, and then shifting to stuff like the 2D things. Like in the 2D gaming days, whenever I grew up, I was not playing those super hard Castlevania style games. Like maybe if folks start with those Castlevanias and such, like they gravitate to more of the Risk of Rain style thing. I'm not sure what the delineator is, but someone who honed his chops on those sort of difficult games that are just like forcing you to play them at their level in a 3-dimensional world, turning that into a 2D space, like just it hurts my brain. I feel boxed in and limited, like I'm almost claustrophobic, like I'm trapped. I want to get out. I don't like it here in some way. Like the gameplay and experience of it is still enjoyable of it to an extent, but like I want to do more, and the game is limiting me in that respect. So like there's always just a part of me and that's just wanting to do more than the game lets me. So that brings it down.
It's like some deep psychological stuff in JC's answer there. I feel trapped.
That's just how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective too, I'm glad to hear that they took a lot of the stuff that was kind of missing from 1 and basically improved upon it, and added it into 2 and kind of improved upon what was already there for 2. Because I remember when they initially announced 2 of like it being, oh, we're gonna go 3D with this one. I'm like,
hello.
Are you in the game club?
Yes. Sorry, I'll be done in just a minute.
the way this goes here, whatever. So, and if I were to kind of assign it a rating here myself, I would probably go about 4-star. Or I don't quite think I can give it the full 5 here, just because the multiplayer thing is just really weird to me that it's still like that. And again, I didn't grow up with learning how to port forward your router to play Minecraft or something like that too with friends. So that just kind of knocks it down a bit for me. And then just some minor things with it just still being that 2D space and stuff like that is just kind of off-putting to me. But again, I still like it. Like I said, it's my number 2 most played game on Steam, and at some point in time, I'm going to pass number 1 because I'm not playing time clickers anymore to rack up those hours on that game. So I'll eventually pass the 152 hours I have in time clickers. So I'll get there.
Nerd.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. I guess unless there's any last moments, let's move on to our final segment. Oh wait, we don't have one. So yes, this is the final episode of season 1 of the Game Club. Risk of Rain was our last game from our original 6. We're gonna have a episode coming up next time where instead of playing a new game, we're going to discuss kind of retrospective on how this season went for us, and then bring up a new list where we will each bring in 2 new games and rebuild a new list for season 2. I personally am only choosing 1,000 hour JRPGs, so that way your summer will be spent entirely inside. No, I wouldn't do that to myself. But yeah.
I apologize again for the game that I've got on my list that's coming up. So.
Okay. Is it the one we've discussed at minimum?
That one, yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great. I'm excited.
Oh, Japanese role-playing game. Okay.
Yep. There we go. Yep. For all the non-gamers,
Yes.
we're slowly educating Purd. We'll get him up to
Would
speed.
Doki Doki be a Japanese role-playing game?
Visual novel.
Not really.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Oh, like Final Fantasy. That's a JRPG.
Yeah.
Oh, we should put that on the list. I've never played any of the Final Fantasy games, but there's 18 of them, right, or something crazy. So they have to be decent.
Oh yeah. That's always the marker for quality. Is look toward the quantity.
Oh, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I guess Fast and Furious would be a good example of that. Ooh. Sorry, I'm just kidding. I just know Tyler likes Fast and the Furious, so
That's two
I
of
know
us.
they are good.
Almost
dang
fine.
it.
It's about
I'm
family,
the
man.
odd man
It's a
out
family
tonight.
movie. Anyway.
10-star rating out, Fast and Furious joke, not even smiled at. Need to stop.
Quit digging yourself a deep hole there, Purd.
So
Exactly.
come back next week when we start Terrible Movie Club. We're going to watch the Fast and the Furious franchise. Anyway, yeah, that's not really much to close on, but yeah. Are there any other sneak peeks that we want to give towards game lists? You have anything you want to give us a peek at, Purd, or are you just
I
still
have no
building your
idea.
list? All right.
I have no plans.
Fair enough.
I'm going back and forth, like, do I want to make mine just strictly multiplayer games this time, or I'm trying to find a good single player game to balance it out. I think I found one, but
Yeah, I've got a
Maybe
few.
you should make it
single
a rule of like one multiplayer, one single player game each. Or like one that has a potential for multiplayer, just so we can continue that trend, or I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. I have two games on my list then that would qualify for the multiplayer. And one is a very loose concept of multiplayer. You can't really choose who you're playing with. So, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we'll probably do a little off-camera meetup and discuss some of the proper rules and everything before we launch into that. But look for that in a couple of weeks here, where we'll set the groundwork for the next one and then begin the Game Club anew with Season 2.
oh geez, the poet over there.
Anyhow, thanks for joining us on this ridiculous concept. We'll see you next season for the start of Season 2 of Game Club. Take care, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.